And sports and filmmaking, they go very well together. And the host of the next panel, he's a sportsman. He ran with a team from LA to San Francisco. And this is not just... Huh?
Las Vegas.
Las Vegas. LA to Las Vegas. Excusez-moi. But it's in the States and you pass the desert, and I think this is really a hard run for Puma. He did this this event and he came to Cannes, I think, by plane. He didn't run here. And I'm glad that he's here today. And he's a sportsman. He worked for football and marketing, and he's a founder of Vitamin Black, a collective which amplifies Black and people of color, BIPOC people, amplified in his collective. And I'm very happy to have him here because he's hosting the next panel. Please welcome Titai Schultz. And he's going to talk to the director of Umbrella Man and Bafana, a film about the South African football team, a founder of Barking Red Films from South Africa, John Barker. And please welcome also Joel Chikapa Phiri. He's a group chairman, known Associates Group, also from South Africa. Please welcome. With the colorful yellow, I love that. Please welcome him. And Aaron Thomas, you saw him just a few minutes ago. He will be on stage right now as well. So please welcome him also with a loud applause. And I'm very pleased to welcome a guest from Jamaica. She had a long trip to get here. Maybe she can tell how that trip was. And we met already at Afro Berlin. And she's working in film business. She's a real expert. She lives in Jamaica and in the USA. And her father was an NFL champion, and she produced a sport-focused show. Please welcome Danica Robinson. The show is open. Enjoy and listen.
Thank you very much for the warm welcome, Jared. Thank you, and welcome everybody to the panel talk of sports and filmmaking. I'm very thrilled to be here at AfroCannes and to be in the sun as well. As Jared said, I'm from Berlin, so Berlin is not always that nice. And maybe a few words to myself and also why I'm moderating this panel talk. As Jared said, I have a background, especially in sports. I was working in the football industry for a long time, for Puma and for Adidas, mainly sponsoring athletes. And I also have a collective that's amplifying Black voices, and especially young Black men and women in Germany. But it's not about me today, it's about the people that sit on the left and the right side of me. And Aaron, you already had a talk just right before, so I think you already said quite a few things, but I think it's always very important and good to know who you're sitting next to and what everybody's doing. So I would love everybody to maybe give a quick introduction, and not only on a professional way, but also because we have so many different backgrounds here, to give a little bit of insight of how you grew up and where you're coming from and what your roots are, because I think that's something that we're going to dive into as well, is the diversity that we have here, but also the diversity and multiculturalism that sports and filmmaking provide. So I would like, maybe we start on the right side, ladies first.
All right. Yeah, so I'm Danica Robinson-Lyles. I live in Jamaica. I own Weston Studios. It's a production company, full service. And let's see, I just had a journey. It's that sportsmanship in me. I was stuck in customs, and I did convince them that I was supposed to interview Aaron yesterday from SWAT, and they all knew your TV show, by the way. So yes, so it was a plus. And so I had some passport issues, but we all got resolved, and I'm here. So yes, so anyhow, so starting up as a child, I grew up with a very strict Caribbean home with my grandparents, and my dad, he did play for the NFL. Do we have any Oakland Raider fans here? How about Detroit Lions? All right. So he started out in Detroit Lions, and then he moved over to Oakland Raiders. And so the only year that they won the Super Bowl was the year that I was born. So I am a good luck charm. That was in '81. And And then when he had passed away when I was in high school, at that time, I didn't know what I wanted to study when I was in school. And so I decided to just take this film class. And then all of a sudden, they were like, you need to start interviewing like the football players. And I was like, wow, yeah, I can maybe get a boyfriend or something. So from there, it just, all of a sudden, I'm the head of the film department. I'm editing. I'm following lacrosse players, basketball players, football players, editing. And then I went to college. And then when I was in college, I had a little radio show. And then I had studied in finance. And when you have strict Caribbean parents, they're like, what is this foolishness with filming and all of this? So, of course, I had to stuck in finance. And I did very well in finance. And from there, in LA, I'm known secretly back then, like sports players, yes, they go into college, but, no one teaches about finance, right? And so it was more of always a credit rebuild and getting things going. So I did a lot of that for sports players when I first started out. And so right now in Jamaica, I just got done finish a pilot. Sorry, Prudence, I wasn't here enough to plan a lot for this event, but I just got done shooting a cooking TV show with Jazz Smollett, if you know her, Live by Design. And an idea had came to me right after. And actually, I just wanted to bring Tiffany Tony up real quick. Just 2 seconds. This is my producing partner that's here. I had brought her down. And of course, we do always have a unique way when it comes to sports and men. And so this is a project that is happening in Jamaica. This is with the Board of Tourism. And this has to do with, go ahead.
I'll be quick because I'm not even on this panel. But hi, everyone. I'm Tiffany Tony, and Danica and I are co-producing a show called The Jock is Cooking. And we basically, we're taking athletes out of their element from the court to the kitchen and putting them in this cooking competition. And the winner receives a cash prize that they can use to donate a portion to charity. So it's really a way of getting athletes out of their element and connecting them to community in a way that we haven't seen before. So that's it.
Thank you. Yes, so I'll move on. I know that was a long introduction. But yes, thank you so much for having me.
That's good. That's good. That's interesting, actually.
I'm going to work on my intro now.
And you just finished the show?
So that pilot is with Jazz Smollett. So she has a cooking TV show right now with her brother, Live by Design. And so this is where we actually, in this case, in our scenario with The Jock is Cooking, this is where we're actually going into the kitchens with celebrity chefs. We're going to the Royal Ten's Kitchen. We're going to Usain Bolt's restaurant. And we also have the new Hotel and a Grill, which we are opening and launching a new casino for the first time on the island the end of this year. And this is actually, we're going to be filming that event as well. It's a poker tournament. I really love poker, by the way. And so so The Jock is Cooking, that's actually going to be launching next year. So we're just doing just the pilot right now, but then the series will start next year.
So you're basically back to the roots with athletes?
Yes.
Kind of like you in
Yes.
high school?
Yes. I mean, I did run track now. I still run fast. So I still got it.
Maybe we put it to the test later.
Let's do it. I'm down.
Okay, thank you for the introduction. Very
Thank you.
interesting, and I'm looking forward to dive into it a little bit more later. Maybe let's move on to our next panelist, Joel. Very happy to have you here.
Thank you, pleasure. My name is Joel Chikapa Phiri. I was born in Malawi. I grew up in Zimbabwe, and I've been in the film business since I was 16. I was an actor. I've had probably a colorful, privileged career. I've had really good mentors. My first film I think I worked on was a film called The Power of One. It was directed by John Alverson. Sorry, hello? Oh, sorry. So the first film I worked on was The Power of One, directed by John Alverson, who was one of my mentors, and he took me from there, and I moved to London, lived in London for 5 years. I worked from the floor. I was the first assistant director to work at Pinewood Studios in the 80s. And I produced with a few of us, we produced the first independent black feature film in the UK in 1992 called Welcome to the Terror Zone, which was made in a very special way because I was working on a lot of international movies, and what I'll do is I'll go and talk to the people. I'll say, okay, don't wrap the set, and we'll go back and say, we'll repaint it and we'll come and shoot our movie. So we'll take all because I was the first AD, so I'll take everybody out and I'll go back and say, guys, let's remake the movie and bring everybody else in. I remember going to in Whitechapel, going to this, myself and Simon Onura, who was my partner, walking into this place and then saying to the guy, please, we want to come and shoot here. It's in a warehouse. We're going to pay you £1,000 to do it. And then the guy said, okay. We said, can we just plug into your electricity as well? Because we don't have a generator. Then he says, fine. Then the next thing, we got in this little parlor. The next thing you see is we walk in with he sees all the trucks, the lighting trucks and all the thing. And the guy tried to kick us out, but we'd already signed the deal. Long story short, so we have a company. My wife and I have a company called the Non-Associated Group, which is it's a studio. It's an integrated company. We own a company called Moonlighting, which is the biggest service company in South Africa. We did Woman King, Beast, Mission Impossible that you guys saw here with Tom Cruise. We're doing Children of Blood and Bone now with Gina Blythewood. So we do all the big American movies. We make a lot of South African films as well. We've made all John Barker's films. I'm releasing a film in the US now, the first African film to go out in 100 cinemas. If you see Variety today, we just announced it. So we're going theatrical in the US, 19th of September. If you're in the US, come, I'll invite you to the premiere. We have our own fund. We're building studios in South Africa. We're doing a lot of exciting things. And part of it is we made Bafana the Boys, which is the series that John also produced.
That's many things. Wow, impressive. And maybe a quick one, like there's so many different and interesting things. Is there something that you have like a focus on right now? Is that even possible with so many things going on at the same time?
I have a lot of people. I mean, we employ 120 people in our company. So I have a lot of support. I have, my job is just strategy. So just to make sure that the thing that we're building is going. I'm raising a new $100 million fund to support the activities what we do. Yeah.
Amazing.
Cool. Hello, everybody. My name is John Barker. I'm a South African filmmaker. Fantastic to very indie filmmaker. My first film, Danica, which Joel produced back in the day, almost 20 years. So how old we are. There was pictures of us. We saw surfaced last night of us in LA at AFI, and some people said we look better looking than we did then. We looked like dorks back then. We looked very young. So we've had a relationship for a long time. That film Danica was made literally on stealing my wife's credit card. So we would take her card all the time, made the film for a really low budget. We're very fortunate to get into Toronto, and so I've had a very lucky career, and I think my path with Joel has been very special too, because I try to make this film called The Umbrella Men, which is a heist film set in Cape Town during the Minstrel Carnival. And it's a great story, it's a great community, very colourful. The Boer Kaap, which I don't know if you all know, Cape Town, fantastic area. There's not a lot of positive films made about that community. So I try to write this film for about trying to get this film made for about 15 years. And then I heard that, and everyone turned me down. Every single government organization, every friend I knew, every single producer I went to South Africa. And after many years, finally someone said, Joel Phiri's back in the game. Go and see Joel. And what took me 15 years to make, when I met Joel, from the time we met Joel and had this meeting about Umbrella Men, 3 months later, we were shooting Umbrella Men in Cape Town. So it's just been great. And from there, it's the #1 film on EVOD in South Africa, so it's doing fantastically well. They liked it so much, they asked us to do Umbrella Men 2. And now, and now we're doing Umbrella Men 3 in Rio. So we're making deals now to be at the Rio Carnival. It's all about music, it's all about carnival and festival and celebrating Africa and a really beautiful community. So that's been great. And then my project about Bafana, which is a really great football team. We say it's the best African team ever assembled. I know there's some Nigerian gentlemen here who disagree. we played against Nigeria and beat them many times in the mid-90s. so we are the best. But it's a great film. It's very personal for me too. My father, I was very fortunate that my father is Clive Barker, who was the coach of the national team. And he was coach of that very successful team, which won AfroCannes at our first time of asking and qualified for our first World Cup in France. So our documentary series, which we're here for, is called Bafana the Boys, and it's a 6-part, 1-hour series about the 90s, the zeitgeist of those 90s. As you know, Nelson Mandela, our freedom, our democracy, hand in hand with a great sporting team. So it's, and I know the sports lady over here, I'm sure you're interested in seeing it.
Yes.
And it also lays legacy for our Banyana, our ladies team, and our current men's team. So, thank you.
I'll try to keep mine brief because I know you have questions you want to get to. I'm Aaron Rahsaan Thomas. I'm a native of Los Angeles, but I grew up in a city called Kansas City in the middle of the United States. So that means my fandom is with the Kansas City Chiefs, who are rivals of the Raiders.
Yes.
But also 3-time champions in the last 5 years. So there's that. But
We're gonna talk later.
that said, my connection to sports in storytelling is that my first break. My career has been mostly in television. It features to a smaller extent, but in television for the most part. So my experience stems from the first staffing position that I ever had was on a show called Friday Night Lights that was in the United States. It was about high school American football teams in the state of Texas and the pressure on these teenagers and these kids to perform at an early age and kind of the unprecedented pressure on teenagers to do these things that adults really are encouraging them to do. And then I was also fortunate to do a documentary for ESPN, which is the sports network in the States. They have a series called 30 for 30 where each entry tells the story of sports, but also the human side of sports. And so I was able to direct the entry on the USC American football team, which is a college team that was really great in the early 2000s and their run to try to win 3 championships in a row. And then in addition to that, I've been trying to recapture, I had so much fun doing those projects that I've been just trying to recapture this. So I've developed countless projects on the World Cup and currently basketball. We tried to do, there's a documentary in the 90s called Hoop Dreams that Lena Waithe and I had developed and sold to TNT. But it was a week before TNT went out of business, basically. They decided they don't do shows anymore and they want to do live TV. So we came close with this, but I continue to try to pursue stories that have to do with competition. Technically, there was another series that I did called The Get Down. It was about the creation of hip hop and punk and new wave and the death of disco in New York City in the late 1970s. And even there, we were looking for ways to kind of tell the story of competition. That was a competition between DJ crews, not quite sports, but very similar format in that the idea of what it takes to compete and what that does to people and the pressure that it puts, in that case, on kids in very tough circumstances, that's always fascinating. So.
Well, thank you very much. I think what we can already witness is how sports has a sense of identity for us and you know, how there's like a competition there already, you know, with the different teams you represent or the countries even. And what I want to dive into now also for you, John, because you just mentioned your father, Clive, was the head coach of the Bafana team. So I was wondering, when I read up on it, how was it to grow up as the son of the head coach? And then at that time, you also probably knew each other and you worked together on the documentary. And I think this one is a very special one because it was right after apartheid ended, and then South Africa came to win also the African Cup of Nations. So I guess my question is, how was it to be there in that time, and then how this influenced your filmmaking and the documentary?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy growing up with a father like Clive Barker, because he's very instrumental in fighting apartheid. We often had cases where the Secret Service would park outside the house and observe the house and observe him, because he was, wherever he could, he was very successful during the 80s. And whenever he did interviews, he would always, as much as he could, mention the terrible regime. And it was his key thing to fight apartheid and for apartheid to go. And so for him to meet Nelson Mandela, and for Mandela to come out and to be on a daily basis where they would greet each other, and Mandela would come to the hotel, talk to the players and wish them well. For him, Nelson Mandela's inauguration was absolutely fantastic. When Nelson Mandela left his inauguration to come and watch us playing against Zambia, that was just crazy. He arrived at halftime. Halftime turned into like 40 minutes. The players had to warm up again. So just a very special relationship with the country. I was a half decent player. I think Joel will say I'm terrible, but half decent player. But I was never going to play for Bafana, and unfortunately, I was very naughty. I don't know why, but we got arrested for blowing up post boxes, and I think we're just in South Africa. There was a lot of drama we were dealing with. So, but I felt like filmmaking and storytelling was always something I always wanted to do, and the fact that I can be a filmmaker that makes these very interesting films, but also the honor to be able to make a series about my father, I think is pretty special. And as a filmmaker, you've always got to do things that are personal to you, right? And this is so personal for me. I end up crying most times during the edit. It's pretty pathetic. I have to walk out the edit at the end because I'm like,
It's okay. That's okay.
It's pretty bad. But so it's emotional, and it's been fantastic, a lot of fun, but also difficult with somebody, a celebrity as a father, and also watching all of these interviews. You know, you see these people who talk about him in a way he was like a father to them. They were his sons, all the players. He had an incredible ability to bring everyone together, and out of apartheid, you know, for him to bring such a diverse group of players from different backgrounds and cultures and to play together for our country, that was something like, we could see it on screen. We're going, well, if Bafana can do it, then the rest of the country can do it. So, yeah.
Out of curiosity, because I don't know, before apartheid, was the teams also segregated? So was that then the first time that the team was mixed between black and white players?
There was a team, a South African team in the 70s where Jomo Sono played for. It was a mixed white and black, but the apartheid government hated that. So I think it was a one-off game, it was an exhibition. All the leagues were separate. There was a black league and a white league in the 80s, in the 70s. And then incredibly in the 80s, for some reason, soccer and football was different to rugby and cricket. Rugby and cricket was seen as a white sport. Football was seen as a black sport. And they mixed the white leagues and the black leagues together. And it just made such a fantastic, strong national team that my dad could then take and do really well with that team. But always divided, always along color, always segregated.
Wow. And then you also went on to do another documentary on sports, right? I think it was called South of the Umbidio.
Yeah.
What was that about? And like, I guess it's, you know, an extension, not an extension necessarily, but it's another documentary about soccer in South Africa. Can you say a little bit about that and how that came along? Because it was in the same year as the World Cup happened in South Africa.
Yeah. I mean, it was just all the eyes were on South Africa in 2010. And we wanted to make a documentary about the neighborhoods that we grew up in Durban, the southern suburbs, which again was all football and not rugby and cricket. There were so many great players who've come out of that area who represented South Africa. So it was a rich vein of talent, football talent. And we just wanted to highlight that. My father and the other coach, another guy who coached South Africa, lived a couple of streets away. So it was just great football. Everyone loved football. And it was weird because we didn't watch the Springboks. We didn't watch cricket or rugby. We just played football. And it was strange because in South Africa, to have those suburbs mixed and have all those teams mixed was just unheard of. And if you look at the Springboks, they had one player of color. The year later, in '96, you look at the Bafana team, and it's a great representation of diverse cultures.
Just for clarification, Springboks is the rugby team.
Yes, right? Springboks is a rugby team, Bafana football team. But football, for some reason, was integrated, and that's why it's so exciting to represent how beautiful that was in our country during all that drama. So it's a celebration of freedom, a celebration of a great team. Yeah.
Thank you. And Joel, I think you have a strong connection, right? Because you not only produced, produced all of his films, both of these films, but I think the
I produced the best ones. Yeah.
best ones. Yeah, maybe you can. I guess the motivation there is clear because it's a strong message, but maybe you can say a little bit about your involvement and how that came across from your perspective from producer side.
Well, we love football. I mean, obviously, John supports the wrong team. He's a Spurs supporter.
What's your team?
Liverpool, and we just won the league. So. And I go to Anfield all the time. So, but no, I think it's just. I mean, for us, we have a relationship. What we try and do is we try and nurture filmmakers. So we say, you know, if you make a film for you, it's a journey. It's hard making movies. So we want to say if we go on a journey, we make a film. We want to try and make sure that we do the next one and the next one, and we plan long term for that's how we try and support the filmmakers that we work with. And I think like Ponga, filmmaking is hard. It's difficult. We're also trying to regularize the business so that people can get mortgages. They can get you can get married as a filmmaker and have send your kids to private school, and so just living a normal life. So we try and structure things in such a way that we support the filmmakers too, and that's what we've done with John. So yeah.
And you were there at the time, I guess, as well, like in 1996.
Yeah, I think the whole thing was. I was thinking it looks like it was rigged. South Africa got free in '94. 95.
That was my thought, actually, to be honest.
I think the whole thing was like, so 95, the rugby team wins the World Cup. 96, the soccer team wins the World Cup, the African Cup of Nations. It was like, I don't know, it was just the energy of being there and being, because I remember classically, like my wife was my partner and the producer, produced a series called My Beautiful Game, which was she followed all the soccer teams all around Africa before the World Cup 2010. So, yeah, I think sports and especially soccer. It's the biggest sport. We had a meeting last week where we were talking to a big sponsor. I want to mention who they are. So I don't want to sell them until they paid us the money. But we sat with them and then they were like saying. So we did the things that if you look at South Africa, the rugby World Cup final is watched by 3 million people. 3 million people, right? Bafana matches, soccer matches. We'll take the last time I think we were playing one of Burkina Faso or somebody. 10 million people watch soccer. Yeah. So in South Africa, soccer is a huge sport.
And I mean, Bafana was like, or Bafana the Boys from the 90s. Then you did your documentary 2010. Is there any sports-related films, documentaries coming up as well now, or because you moved to doing the heist movie, which was very successful that you mentioned, but just out of curiosity, is there also more coming from the sports world?
I mean, I guess it depends on how successful this is. If this bombs, I don't know if we can do anymore. But I mean, you're talking about from our side.
Yeah.
It's been difficult because we've written a lot of fictional films. And doing unscripted is quite a challenge because of the archive, hugely expensive archive, which we weren't aware of how much the FIFA etc. charges for the football that we own. It's crazy to think that there's a shot of my dad flying around like an aeroplane, and then we've got to pay 25,000 euros for that. It's kind of weird, and because it belongs to us, it was our football. So we've lots of challenges. And I think our whole team is actually ready to do another documentary, all the KAE team, because they've just learned so much. So, I don't know, it's possible. We feel that there's a great need for Banyana, that's our ladies' football team. We'd love to highlight more of what they've achieved. We interviewed one of the ladies, Portia, she's the leading striker of Banyana. She scored 100 goals for our country. That's a record across Africa. There's no other player male or female, who scored that many goals. She scored 100. There's no, I know it's amazing, right? The sad thing is, after they won their final, she got home, had to catch a taxi, had to catch 3 taxis back to Soweto to get home. I mean, that is just crazy. That's just so unfair. So we would love to do something about a women's team, and Banyana need far more respect and eyes on their achievements. So maybe it's a Banyana. Banyana the girls. Joel?
Yeah, let's do a look. I think.
Maybe we're onto something here.
Yeah. I think also another. If you look at it, I think it's almost like history repeating itself, because currently we've got a team. The current team has just qualified for AfCon, and potentially they're going to qualify for the World Cup in Mexico, Canada, and USA. So it's almost like a certain, like we get a certain cycle. I'm like, so I'm hoping that we repeat itself, and then the next phase we follow the current team and tell their story and their success.
Yeah.
Thank you. Aaron, over to you. I think you said you started, or one of the first, maybe this way is better, I guess. One of the first films or series you wrote was Friday Night Lights, which was about American football. And you also just mentioned so many other projects you did around sports and football around the world. So, and I can also see you look very athletic. So you seem like a sporty person. Yes. You too. Yeah, not necessarily. And now you transition also to writing SWAT. Is that
Yes. Although it's all hand in hand, it's all connected. So I created SWAT, and SWAT was run for 8 seasons now. And in fact, our the final episode of the show aired last night. So I'm very happy and proud of what that team has done. But one of the things that I discuss, even as we work on that show on a day-to-day basis, I have a very bad habit of using sports for analogies whenever I give examples.
Me too.
Okay. So in across the board, all types of sports. So I tried in the SWAT room a lot of times. I would tell them I'm going to try to limit myself to one sports analogy per day. So you have to call me on it if I use another one. But when you are speaking about football and the World Cup, one of the things that we would talk about a lot, and we ended up trying to do a few episodes on it. So I have family in Ghana, so I'm a Black Stars supporter always, and I've always marveled at the idea of how strongly the continent will come together when there's so few teams in the field. If we win, there is a team who is able to advance to the final rounds. I feel like it's going to be the biggest party in the world, So something even on SWAT we would talk about a little bit is just the world scope. There's no other sport really. I think basketball may be the closest, as far as just the worldwide impact, that it has. And so these are things we would talk about even there. We have athletes now who are coming over in their later days, Messi and Beckham, and but being able to really kind of like tap into the mania. I'll tell you one quick anecdote about, and I told this in the SWAT room as well, but I remember the first time I had ever stepped foot in Accra in Ghana, the capital city. The first day I was there, it was they were playing a friendly against England, and obviously that's a complicated relationship overall. But what I remember about it was I'd never seen a situation where there was one event that united an entire city quite like that, where even riding through the city, landing and then being on the street and riding to my destination, everyone from bankers in suits to the kids who were playing, on the side of the street were all huddled around radios and around TV. And even though I couldn't see the match, I was on the way to a destination where I could watch it. You could tell what was happening based on just listening to the city. So anytime there was a near miss, a penalty kick, anything, the entire city was responding. And they ended up winning that friendly, by the way, too, which was crazy. But just that energy is always something that in any writer's room that I've been in, that's what you're trying to capture, trying to even get a fraction of in the storytelling is how do we convey that, and even for those who are not into sports, how do you share that feeling effectively? So
Yeah, I think that's a good one to portray those big emotions that happen through sports. What's one analogy that you use in the writers' room? Sports
there's
analogy.
a million. One of my favorites, though, I use a lot of football analogies actually, because in the writers' room, it's very much a team effort, and oftentimes where people get caught up is in trying to be the one to score. I will be the one to fix this problem. I will be the one to have the idea that will be the great idea. And oftentimes you can take certain lessons from being just as valuable just by making the right pass that might allow another person to make the right pass. And in the writer's room, the way that manifests itself is you may not have the pitch for the solution. But if you're able to pitch an idea that perhaps inspires others to think about different ideas, that eventually leads to the idea that will be the story, that initial idea, even though it may not be the greatest idea, was extremely valuable in leading us towards that destination. So what I try to tell my writers' rooms from the very beginning is we need all of the ideas. We need to hear them, even if they're not completely great ideas just yet, because you never know where a great idea may take you, or the way it may spark someone else's imagination. So be that person that's not afraid to make the pass, and you'll get the assist, So that's one of the ones that I use. Yeah.
That was already two, I think.
I'm sure. And it's probably two or three within that one, because it's the pass to the goal, but we'll just call it all one. Yeah.
But it's also interesting that soccer also plays such a big role now in the United States, where it was so tiny in the past, and now even the analogies end up in the writers' room. So,
yeah, it's it's the age-old debate, right? It's the most popular sport in the world and the most influential sport in the world, and yet, when we look around and look at a lot of the athletes that we have in the U.S., I'm like, it'd be great to see what Anthony Edwards, our star basketball player, what he would look like as a striker for us, what Allen Iverson would have looked like as a striker, what Kobe Bryant would have looked like as a defender. But it's one of those things that is slowly developing, and I think the impact of the World Cup and the upcoming World Cup, I think, will be tremendous. There's a lot of opportunity for programming and stories that will come out of this, and the human stories, I think, will be very important to the next generation to see what is possible. So
that's actually a good point, where I would like to see your opinion, but also yours, Danica, with the Olympic Games coming up next year in LA, I think. No, the 2028, and next year the World Cup. Is there anything from your side planned, or are you doing something around it in connected to films? Are you serious? And also same question to you afterwards.
Danica may have more of an answer for me. I plan to be a spectator. I really want to go and watch. I've been able to go to friendlies. I've never been able to go to a World Cup game, but I'm hoping that Ghana can qualify. I will go and watch wherever they are. I will go and see. And then, I'm based in Los Angeles. We have games there. I think hopefully some of the larger games, and I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see the energy, and the same with the Olympics, where I ran track too growing up.
So here we have it.
No, but ran, that's in past tense. That's past tense.
Oh, okay.
So yes, but excited to see specifically the sprints. I want to see what Jamaica does. I want to see the Jamaican women come back. We'll see. Hopefully, Sharika
Yes.
Jackson and Shelly Ann Fraser-Price and all of that. So I'm excited to see them in person. Yeah.
Yes, and leading to that, that's so with my company, we are partners with the Ministry of Tourism. So of course, our goal is always to bring in tourism. So from sports to just the culture alone in filming. And I would say that those stories of how they've even gotten there, right, from the struggle in Jamaica, right? So right now, some of the stories that we are looking for at this point, actually, we do have a project. We have, if you know Aditi Effiong, he's always here at AfroCannes. He's not here today. But we actually have a story right now where an American basketball coach who goes to Nigeria, lands this job, and now his job is to actually coach a basketball team. And of course, Nigeria and America is completely different. So it goes into, drug lords capturing people. And this is actually a true story. It's having these athletes where it's like they don't have money to pay for, let's say, the basketball tournaments, right? And so what they have to do to like get the financing, not being able to have a car to like get to the tournament. And it's like this kid goes through so much to where he finally gets to the final destination, to where he's so tired that he can't even perform properly, right? So then he doesn't gets the tryouts, right? So then some of his friends, of course, convince the coach to give him another day, and then he makes it. And then the story kind of goes on from there. That project actually is right now in the middle of financing. But yes, that's with Aditi Effiong. He's the creator of Black Book. That was the #1, I think, what was that, 2 years ago on Netflix? Yes. So that's what we're kind of working on right now. But I would say we love partnering with different countries. Nigeria has been kind of our main focus. I'm sure you've heard of Nigeria is going to have a direct flight to Jamaica now. So, which will be easier to bring in, obviously equipment and those things. Those are things that I'm thinking about. So yeah. So if you guys do have stories and you want to be told and have it shot in Jamaica or even different parts outside of Jamaica as well, I'm here. But yeah, that's kind of my dish.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you. And we only have like 1 or 2 minutes left, so I would like to give the opportunity maybe also to the audience to ask a few questions while we have them here. Yes, please.
I do have a question.
Yes.
And this is for you specifically, Erin. So just to let you know, I grew up in Abilene, Texas, and some of the Friday Night Lights film was actually shot at some of our high school football games. So I just wondered, like, when you are developing a project of that nature, how many writers are in that room typically, and what does that look like for you?
Well, I should clarify, when I came on right after the pilot, so I wasn't part of the development process for Friday Night Lights, but I was there from day one with the room. And for that room, I'll try to answer this quickly. We have roughly 8 writers. What's interesting about that is that, and I think all sports stories, is that it's more about the people than the sport. So of the 8 writers that we had, I would say 6 of them had zero interest in football at all, in sports. We had one who was into tennis maybe, but many of them were playwrights and into classical music and that kind of thing. So what we would find is that it's like building a team. You want to have people who have different strengths, right? So this is a story about teenagers and about their families, mothers and sons, fathers and daughters. And so we had a room full of people who had children. We had a room full of people who were just starting to date, so we could cover that. We had a room full of people who, one Texan who understood what it was in Texas. And we had a room full of people who, understood what it was to come from humble means, right? So that was, the idea was a collection of personalities, and bringing them together and allowing them to contribute to the story. And then you had me and another person who, when we want to get into discussing the sport, we could geek out a little bit, talk about the sport.
We can imagine. But
Thank you.
we hear the bells. It's about time. Thank you very much, everybody, for being part of this panel. Big applause to John, Aaron, Joel, Danica. My name is Tite Schultz, this is AfroCannes, and please stay for another couple very interesting panel talks soon to come. Thank you.